Start. Hey guys, so we are interviewing Jocelyn tonight, and we're just going to be chatting all things life, all things business. I'm super pumped. Jocelyn, I don't even know how long you've been in business, but I know like when you got in, I was watching all your selfie videos, like how to take selfie lighting and all this stuff. So I'm like super excited to hear your full story. But one of the reasons that I'm super excited to have Jocelyn on is because she's kind of been through almost every stage of life in this business. I think were you guys you weren't married yet before you joined, right?
No. So when I joined, I didn't even know my husband.
Yeah. And then you didn't have any babies. And so you guys got married, had babies,
Yeah.
another, then you're pregnant now with your second. So all the life happens, and how
Yeah.
to kind of like learn how to work the business through all the life changes is something I'm super excited about to hear from you. So hold on one second. Let me make sure everybody. Okay. Okay. So if you want, just go ahead and start with kind of how you got started in the business and all of that, and go from there.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm like setting a tripod up so I can be the mom at the same time, because you always know how that goes with dads,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I have 3 and 5-year-old. I get it.
Okay. Now I don't have to hold it. Cool. Okay. So I found this business originally 7 years ago now, which is crazy. 7 years ago, January. So it's 2013. I was 19 years old, single, going to school full time to become a pharmacy technician. So it wasn't the actual like degree school, it was like for a program. And um, I got asked to model wedding dresses at a bridal expo. And so I was at this expo, and in between the fashion shows, I entered to win a drawing to win a free wrap. And so, no clue what it was or anything, but about a week later, I got a phone call from a lady named Andrea, and she's like, "Hey, you won second place. You won $5 off." And then I was like, what does it do? I had no idea what I entered to win. I just entered to win everything that was free. And so she told me what it was, and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna put this thing on, and it's gonna make me skinnier in 45 minutes. I want it. And you guys, like, I was already a size 4. Like, I didn't need it, but I wanted it. And so tried that first one from her. After 45 minutes, not much of a difference. But 3 days later, because I drink a lot of water, it was like I went from feeling like I had to suck in a tight fitting dress to not having to suck in anymore. Like, it was a huge difference for me. And so I wanted more, and I was obsessed. And I started telling like a little bit of family members and friends about it, and they were all like, "Oh my gosh, that's really cool." And so when Andrea invited me to go to a party, she's like, "Hey, if you bring 4 people with you, I'll give you one for free." And I'm like, done. Like, I want more. So we show up to this party. We were an hour late to the party. So at this point, it's like over. And I had my like 5 people with me. So I got a free wrap, and between all of us, um, we probably made her over $300 in cash. And it's crazy because it was after this party that she's like, "Hey, why don't you just sign up to make some extra money off of your family and friends instead of making me all this money?" And because of the fact that I saw how much cash she made in like 5 minutes, the 5 minutes that we were with her, I was like, okay, yeah, like, sure, why not? And so I ended up having to save up to get started. I was paying for my pharmacy technician program out of pocket, and like, with that, they make you do an externship, which means instead of like being paid to work for them, like temporarily, you have to pay to work for them. It was stupid. And so I was broke for forever, and I had to save up to join, and I ended up getting a booster kit when I joined as well. And so just in my first month and a half, from the products that I had on hand and signing up retail customers and loyal customers alone, I did not sign any distributors. I made over $800 cash, not cash. I mean, some of it was commissions, but over $800 in my first month and a half. And so then I was like, cool, like, I don't have to do anything. I'm a baller, like, it's residual income. But I mean, I didn't take into consideration that half of that was retail and cash sales. So then that commission check that I had gradually went down. And so a couple months had gone by I'm still living at home. I'm still this broke college student. And at this point, I realized like, I don't enjoy standing on my feet for 8 hours a day at the pharmacy, and I don't like dealing with grumpy old people. So this isn't going to work for me. I didn't finish my pharmacy program. And I was at that point going to school full time, trying to figure out what in the world do I want to do with my life. And at the same time, my mom was like, Jocelyn, why are you guys still doing this? And really, grumpy old people are the only people that go to the pharmacy. And so when I joined, my parents, like, they let me do what I want, but they both kind of set me aside, you know, that parently talk where they put their hand on your shoulder and they're like, we're going to let you do what you want, but we know people that tried something like this and it didn't work. Like, they never made their money back. So don't get your hopes up. And so months had gone by. I was spending way more than I was making. Like, I was obsessed with the products. I was probably spending at least $200 a month on products. And my commissions at that point were maybe $50. Like, I just was not doing anything with it. I wasn't invested. And so my mom looks at me one day. She's like, why are you still doing this business? Like, you're not making any money. And I wanted to prove her wrong. And so I made the decision then and there that I was going to figure this thing out. And so it's crazy though, because looking back, even though I was spending more than I was making for quite a few months, quitting was never an option. Like, take quitting off the table. Like, I never thought about it. It wasn't like, it's just, you don't quit, you know, I just never thought about that. And so I kept hearing people say over and over again that when you show up to things, you go up. And I didn't necessarily know what that meant, but I knew that I had to start showing up to things to figure it out. So back then, this is 2013, nobody works the business on social media. So the only things I could show up to were conference calls and in person, like one of those two. And so any conference call training that they had, I was on. Any in-person training that was close-ish, I would go to. And the closest thing that we could find, my upline lives like 30 minutes away from me, but we would drive 2.5 hours down to Vegas for a training or a party or whatever. And so one of the things that I showed up to down in Vegas, the number one income earner, Stephanie, was there. And she was going around the room asking everybody, what's your goal? What's your goal? What's your goal? My background, I did beauty pageants. And so the one thing about interviews that I can tell you is that if you want a better chance at them like remembering you, especially job interviews or whatever, pageants, is that you want them to remember you, and you have to say things differently and get them to think in a different perspective than everybody else. And so I wanted Stephanie to remember who I was. And so she's going around asking everybody, what's your goal? What's your goal? Everybody was like, I want to make an extra $500 a month. I want to do the steps to success. I want to go Ruby to make that extra 500. And at that point, you know, I had been in for several months, hadn't really signed like very many distributors. Like, I got lucky with like my crazy uncle signed up as a distributor, and then like a random girl that I knew that just had a boyfriend that was like mine in high school, but they never did anything. And I didn't even like make any money off of them or anything. Like, I just didn't understand any of that stuff. And so I just couldn't sign distributors. And so I was like, I can't say that my goal is to go Ruby or do the steps to success. Like, I can't do that. And so when she got to me, I was like, oh, my goal is to just sign up customers and get the customer bonus. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And so at that point, I realized like, okay, if the number one income earner is looking at me like I'm crazy, maybe I should just listen to what she has to say tonight. And so I have no clue what she taught us at that training, but I remember leaving thinking, okay, why don't I just at least shoot for the steps to success and see what happens? And so that was my goal. I had no clue if I could do it or anything, but before, I was shooting myself in the foot and taking the option of trying to do the steps to success off of the table because I thought it was too hard. I wasn't even trying for it. And so that's something that kind of changed from that training, as I left with the belief that she had in me that I could possibly do this. And then I just got to work with my upline. Like, back then, once again, nobody did social media. And so it was doing an expo with her. It was doing a follow-up party after that. And it was just following up with all those leads that you get from that expo. And at the same time, I showed up to one other thing. This lady was like, hey, I'm doing my steps to success once a week. on Instagram. And back then, nobody worked social media like that. And so we were all super intrigued. I hopped on this conference call and I learned how to use Instagram for the first time. And that's when things changed for me. So between, getting outside of my comfort zone, I've always been introverted and shy. Like, I'm the type of person that people think I'm stuck up because I'm the quiet one until you get to know me. Okay. I don't like doing parties or the in-person things and expos, but when that was the only option, I did it. Right. And then when social media started, that opened up a whole new door for me, because then all of a sudden I could do it from my phone. I could do it while I was taking my 20 to 22 credits a semester. I could do it while I was working as a full-time nanny for one of the college professors. She worked 3 days a week full-time, like all day. And then I had school all day, Tuesday, Thursdays, and had to somehow make it all work. And between all of that, I was able to do it from my phone. And so I completed my steps to success for the first time, and I made $500 when I did that. And I had this aha moment, like, okay, I just made $500 by doing the steps to success once. So what if I just did it again? Did it again, I made another $500. Did it again, I made another $500. And that's when things started to change for me. So it took me 9 months to promote to executive, 11 months to Ruby, 1 year to Diamond. And then through this whole time, I met my husband. So the summer where I wasn't really doing anything, that's when I met my husband. So when I started to take the business seriously was about the time that we were seriously starting to date. We dated for 3 months before we got engaged. And then we got engaged, and he's like telling me, like, Jocelyn, this is not a reliable source of income. You need to get a real job. This ain't gonna pay the bills, is what he used to say. And like, even like after we got married for a little bit, I remember one day, because we were living in my parents' basement apartment, which is just like next door. And I just remember he comes home one day and he's like, hey, there's this eye doctor that's looking up for a receptionist. You need to go apply. Like, he did not support this business. And so like, I just remember the month I went Diamond, actually, I reached out to Joel. So I signed up with Andrea, and then Andrea directly signed up with Joel and Stephanie. So I was pretty close with them, thankfully. But I reached out to Joel and I was like, what do I do? Like, he's not supportive. And he's like, just keep doing what you're doing, because in 90 days, you're going to be making more than he is. And I was. So I just kept doing what I was doing, and we got married. So I promoted 1 year later into the business. So March of 2014, I went Diamond. We got married in May. And then that summer was so rough. Just finally starting to live together, and him seeing how I was working this business from his perspective. All he saw was me just sitting at home on my phone all day. Right. And if you don't know what you're like, if he doesn't understand what you're doing, then he's gonna be like, I'm just sitting here working really hard and going to school full time, and you're just on your phone. He didn't understand. And so a couple things that really helped change that perspective for my husband was first getting a comma in my paycheck, and then having a joint account so he actually saw the money, and then helping him see that the products actually worked and have him use some of the products. And then that summer, I learned the hard way about the 5 love languages. Like, that first couple months of marriage was so hard on us, just because I didn't know that he was feeling neglected and not feeling loved, and he didn't understand what I was doing. I mean, his love languages are physical touch and quality time. And he'd come home from work, and I just want to work on my phone, and I was giving my phone the quality time instead of him. And so I had to learn this stuff, so I'm telling you now, so you can learn the easy way and not the hard way. And so between all of this and doing the 5 love languages and showing him, instead of just being on my phone all day, I'd say, hey, look, like, I'm just adding a couple people on Instagram. I just got a few people to follow me back. And I just got this one girl that just messaged me and said, hey, you just followed me on Instagram and I'm interested. Can you send me info? And then I'd be like, yeah, I just signed up a customer. So that's commission coming in. And so me showing him what I was doing on my phone changed everything. Because then all of a sudden he realized, like, okay, she's not just playing on Instagram. Like, this is how she works. And so that's another tip I have, is showing them what you're doing if that's been an issue for you. And then setting aside that quality time for your husband. So even now to this day, like, because my schedule's obviously, you'll keep hearing the progression as I continue to tell this story, but even still, even still to this day, I, have to show, I totally lost my trail with him opening that door. But what I'm getting at is that things always change and I
Vincent,
still
I
have to
love how
make
you
that
like
time
cover.
for him.
Oh.
Well, he just got out of the shower and I wasn't sure if he was going to be wearing clothes or not. So
I love it. It's like real life. Real life.
Okay, hold on. He wants me to move.
Okay.
Can I go in that room? Okay.
Real life. Listen, I get it. I get it. Earlier I
Okay.
was on a call, like my kids came in screaming, trying to give me hugs good night, and so I just like had to mute it real quick. I get it. It's like, but yeah, you were just saying like still to this day, like it's just all, I think, it's just all about communication and speaking his language.
Yeah, no, and that's literally how it's been. Dang it, she's not happy that I'm not with her anymore. Okay, so yeah, so then that summer, even though marriage, dealing with all that, my husband, I promoted him to diamond that July. So we got married May, June, July, he promoted. Then August, I went double diamond. And then he promoted to double diamond in December. So 2015 comes around and it's our first conference and it was in January. And getting him to conference changed everything. At that point, obviously I was bringing in a good income, like $10,000 combined. And so he didn't say anything about it, but he still wasn't supportive. And so he didn't necessarily want to go to conference, but I knew that if he could go, like they just kept saying, like, get him to conference, get everyone on your team that you can to conference. And so I remember the first night we watched the top 100 income earners walk across the stage. And okay, you're not going to see me, but I got to open this door for Teelan. But I remember watching the top 100 income earners walk across the stage. Here, come here. Where's your binky and your blankie? Go get your blankie. Can you get your blankie and then you can come sit on my lap? Or not. Say hi. So watch the top 100 income earners walk across the stage. And I remember thinking like, okay, I want to be there. But I was like, there's no way, like it's going to take me for freaking ever. I'm only a double diamond, maybe making $6,000 a month. And so I asked Stephanie, I was like, how much money do I have to make to get into the top 100? And she gives me a number. And I was like, oh, that's going to take me forever. Like maybe by the end of the year, I'll be in the 90 to 100. And then, okay, so that's the first night. I'm exhausted. I'm like, that moment where you're like almost asleep, right about there. And then your husband rolls over and starts talking to you. He rolls over and he's like, Jocelyn, like, I just want to do this business with you. I want to quit my job. I want to cut back on my school hours. Like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And everything changed at that point. He was so supportive and was like involved, wanted to help me with everything. And so that changed everything. But even cooler, and I love sharing this perspective too. So that was our first year at conference, and everybody kept saying the more people you get on your team to go, the better, like that's when everything changes. And so we had 9 people on our team there, and all of them except for one promoted to diamond and double diamond in less than 60 days after conference. And we personally, we were both double diamonds in January. I promoted to triple diamond in February and presidential diamond in March. So, and then April, May, I got a message from Pam and she's like, hey, congratulations, you're the number 60 income earner in the whole company. And I about died. I was like, what? And so it's just crazy because I went from thinking like, there's no way this is going to happen anytime soon to it happening like 2 months later. And like with what's coming, you guys have no stinking idea. But my first triple diamond paycheck was above average presidential, and my first presidential check was above average ambassador. So you guys have no idea what's in store, and I'm so freaking excited for that. And then the year after that, March 2016, we promoted to ambassador. So at that point, we had already been married for we got married in 2014. So we had been married for 2 years when we went ambassador. So we were able to just be newlyweds and just enjoy each other and travel and not worry about money. to then, you know, in 2017, just like getting that feeling like, okay, it's time to start a family. And so being able to not have to worry about paying for the children and buying the cute clothes and the bows, and they're expensive. And now we were supposed to close on our house like at the end of last year, but it's always a month later after they tell you. So we're supposed to close maybe this week, but since I'm going to be out of town next week, on our dream home that has a pool and just like everything, like all the fun upgrades that we always dreamed about wanting to do, we can do. And literally, you know, it's been so fun because of this business, my husband was able to find a passion for real estate, like, because we were able to build our first home together 1 year into marriage. And I was 23 and he was 25 when we did that. And then like in 4.5 years is when we hit the Millionaire Club, and then we were able to build another house, and now the dream house. And so he found a passion for real estate, and so now he's able to do that, and he has so much fun with it. And it's cool because like not only do I get to have my own thing and my own ambition, but so does he. And I just never like expected life to look like this, but I'm so thankful. And it's been so fun because like I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and I always wanted to have a wealthy husband, but I love the fact that I'm like, I'm good. Like I'm doing it on my own too. And then he can have his own money. But so that's kind of my story. It's kind of fun because like starting at 19, doing the college student thing, doing the trying to date thing, the newlywed, the paying for the wedding with the business, trying to figure out how in the world to balance. All of a sudden I have a baby and a business. What do I do? And now having to learn to balance with 2 kids. I've been through it all.
I love it.
Plus,
I love it.
plus I will say too, one of the families that I nannied when I was a college student had 6 kids. So lots of kids too, but 2's good for now.
I know I had 2. Mine are 18 months apart, and I was like, okay, I'm good after that. But no, I love it. And I love the fact like all of you guys on here, and I know a lot of people were in the comments talking about how they don't have supportive spouses or significant others. And one thing I wanted to add to that real quick is just the fact that like, if you start talking about why you're doing it and what you're doing it for, a lot of times you can also get your spouse on board. Sometimes it's not just saying like I'm doing this right with like a sassy attitude, but it's saying like this is why I'm doing it. You know, I remember one of the first moments my husband kind of got on board was like when I got him like a golf gift. You know, it was like a rangefinder where, you know, it was like, okay, like, dang, like this is something that I wouldn't have been able to get without her doing the business. And so really looking at different goals that you guys have together is gonna also really help you guys develop those visions and those dreams together. So I love that. So Jocelyn, let me ask you this. What, like going back, you know, to you before executive, like when you were going executive, before you went to conference, you know, what would you say to people who are in that position where they're like, maybe I've signed 1 or 2 distributors, they've quit, they're not doing anything, my family is not supportive. You have every reason to kind of like say that you don't want to do the business anymore. What like would be your advice to somebody like that?
This is a great question. And it's so funny because I literally just went live on my team page kind of about the same thing. So it's going to come down to 2 things. The first thing, sorry, she's like playing in the laundry, so just ignore if you can hear her. But
I actually do want to say something real quick, because all of you guys who say like, I can't do this because I'm too busy, I can't do this because I have kids, I can't do this because like look at her right now. She's just living life. And that's the beauty of the business. You get to live your life like within it. Like you don't have to like just sit like in an office, in a pretty little office like Sherilyn, I'll call her, right? I always use her as an example because her life always looks like, you know, a Barbie life. And I'm like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to always look like that. Like nobody's life really looks like that. So don't wait for your situation to be perfect to like get on a Zoom with somebody or train somebody or whatever. Because like when your kids are crawling over you or you have, you know, life happening, you're cooking or you're cleaning or whatever, like that is real life. And that's the beauty of how we get to work our business. So, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and that, yeah, and I mean, if you could see the rest of this room, you'd be like, holy cow, this is like my office, this one little corner, and then it's just clothes everywhere. This is our little storage room until we move into our house. But so like it literally just comes down to you've got to make the decision of like, okay, these people that keep saying that I should quit or this isn't going to work or whatever, look at what they have, look at their life. Do you want that? You know, if you have marital problems or like issues with your relationship and you really just need some advice from somebody, are you going to go to the person that you've known that's been in 5 different marriages and can't keep a guy around? Or are you going to go to the person that's been married for 40 years and ask them for advice? Like, only take advice from the people that you want to trade places with. That's the first thing, you know? So don't pay heed to when people say, oh, like, I tried that business, it doesn't work. You know, you're never going to make money at that. Do you want to trade their bank accounts? Probably not. You take advice from the people that you want to trade places with. And then the second part that just changes everything. It's the power of decision. The reason why, I mean, well, 2 things is, first, I took quitting off the table. Like, if quitting's an option, you're not going to succeed. You have to take it off the table. There is no plan B. There is no, if this doesn't work. If you're saying that, then it's not going to work. So take quitting off the table. But then part of that is you have to then make the decision, because you can take quitting off the table and still never succeed if you don't decide to just jump in and figure it out. So that's what it was for me. Because even though I wasn't quitting, I wasn't making any money either. I had to make the decision, like, I'm going to learn and figure this out and try things until it starts working for me. I'm going to do this until. That's the key. You have to make that decision. And then once you do, everything changes. And you never know, you know, what you're going to show up to, or what training or Zoom or hopefully conference somebody's going to say something that you get on, that you show up to, that it's going to be that light bulb moment. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, okay, here we go. And then you'll do it.
It's so good. It's so good. I want to give you guys an analogy because I think it holds so much power. Because a lot of times we say, okay, like, yeah, okay, take quitting off the table, but what does that mean? And what does that really look like? And the reality of it is think about, and I've used this example before, so if you're on my team and you've heard it before, I apologize, but think about the people who say, I'm going to have a baby. Okay. If they don't get pregnant, they just say like, oh, I'm just not, it's fine. I'm just not going to have a baby. No, they persist until it happens. They do IUI, they do IVF, they do whatever it takes. They look at their schedules, whatever it takes. And the thing is even once you get into the business, you guys, you still have to, like, you still are saying to you can't get into the business saying like, I'm going to try and like really just make sure that this doesn't work, because I'll have people that hop into the business and they're still skeptical. Like they're almost expecting it to fail. They're almost saying like, I'm doing this just so I can tell myself like, this isn't for me. And the reality of it is if you do that, it's never going to be successful. If you just say like, I am not, whatever follows the I am always comes true. Okay. And what I say to people is, it doesn't really matter what you have to do to get the baby, because if the baby's that important to you, you're going to get it. Right? Like, you're going to go through IUI, you're going to go through IVF, you're going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you know what? Like, it really doesn't even make sense why people want to have babies when you think about it, because you're like, okay, I'm really uncomfortable. I'm always out of breath. Like when I'm pregnant, and like, this is for 9 months and I gain like 20 to 50 pounds. And it's really, and then at the end of all of that, then I have to birth this baby either out of my private parts or somebody's cutting my stomach open. But do you know why people do it? It's because they want the baby. And the process doesn't matter because the baby's that important. And people will go through 10 times more pain to have the baby. Okay? Because it's that important. And my thing is what's your baby? If you have a baby that's big enough, like if you have a why or a desire or something that God has placed on your heart that's big enough, the process really is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you have to go through because you're going to keep taking steps because of the end result, right? When the end result is strong enough, the process becomes irrelevant. And so no matter how many messages you have to send out, no matter how many people you have to follow, no matter how many whatever. And I love using that analogy because like people are just like, oh, that makes sense because it's in a different form, right? We're thinking about it not in the business. We're thinking, hey, you know what? I'm not disqualifying myself. So many people disqualify themselves because they think, oh, I don't have that drive or determination. Hey, guess what? If it's something you want bad enough, you do have it. Everybody has that drive and determination. It's not something that like, oh, Kelsey Thornton just came out of the womb and she's natural. No. Okay, you guys know. It's when you find something that motivates you enough, you're willing to do whatever it takes. If you knew that you didn't know how to swim, but you had to do it in order to save your kid, you jump in the water. Like you just jump in the water. And people are like, dang, you're going real deep. But the reality of it is this is life or death. This is your life. And you have to start taking it seriously. Because so many people I talk to people every day, you guys, and I'm sure you do this too. You talk to people every day and they say, yeah, I want an extra $500. The money that they're talking about wanting that's extra is actually to pay their bills. So nothing about it is extra. And stop calling money that's extra when it's not. It's a necessity for you to live the life that God called you to live. And you're selling yourself short. Okay, I could keep going, so I'm just gonna stop and ask you another question because like I get off on these tangents and then I gotta reel myself back in. Okay, so but I do want you to talk about too how it is now, because you talked about how it was like you and Taylor first got married, and then but what is it like now that you both have your own careers?
Oh my gosh. And it's crazy because like when he first decided like, hey, I'm going to start doing real estate full time, he literally got the most incredible opportunity. Like he finally just got a partner, thankfully, so he can actually take a few days off every once in a while now. But like he was the only sales agent for this entire builder that was coming to our area, starting a brand new community, and they project that they're going to sell at least 140 homes this year. So if you can do the math on the commission on that, he's like so excited, but he's ambitious like I am, which is fun. And so when he first got this opportunity, I was like, I'm like, can be a single mom during the day. Like, what in the world am I going to do? And so I've had to get really real with having a routine. Schedules do not work with kids. Like, I'm sorry for the moms that are perfect and can do that, but I just cannot. And especially being pregnant, forget it. Like, I have to get enough sleep. And so like all these people that keep saying like, oh yeah, you have to wake up early and do a miracle morning to be successful. I, for the longest time, was like, crap, like I can't be as successful as I want because I can't wake up early. Like I have to get enough sleep. And so, which is dumb because I could have just gone to bed earlier, but I just am not a morning person. And so it's all about finding a routine. And so kind of what I have found that has worked for me, and everyone's schedule is going to be different, but I want you to hear that this is something that we all struggle with. And I heard this really awesome analogy on a book that I just read. I can't remember if it's the one I'm listening to now or the one before, but I think it was the one before, from 3 Feet from Gold. And they kind of just said, there's no such thing as balance. Life is like a Rubik's Cube, but everybody has their own different color combination. And you just have to keep moving it and prying it and turning it until it's the right combination for you. There's no such thing as balance for everybody. And so I, with the way life is now, like Taylor, he's usually gone by like 9:30. So we usually, sometimes spend like an hour in the morning together, but sometimes I sleep in. Taylor's been waking up around 8:30, which is annoying. I want her to sleep in a little bit longer. She doesn't. And so usually what I do, because Taylor gets up at about 8 o'clock to get ready for real estate stuff. And so when his alarm goes off, that's when I wake up and start working from my phone. Taylor's in a pack and play in the same room as we are right now, which is also super annoying. Can't wait till she has her own room. And so during that time until she wakes up, I just work on my phone. And then once she's up, we do like breakfast together. And then we come downstairs and I just turn Moana on and watch it for the 500th time. And she does her thing and plays toys, and I get a little bit more work done. And that's usually when I try to like, mornings for me are more for like personal development, leadership stuff, charting, connecting with my team. And then once she starts winding down and is starting to get ready for a nap, that for me is like, okay, let me hurry and hop in the shower while she's not asleep. And I'll like just hope that she's good for 20 minutes or whatever. And then I'll start getting ready. And then when she goes down for her nap, as I'm getting ready, I'm listening to personal development the whole time. And then as soon as she's down for her nap and I'm ready for the day, I do a power 30 always. And I always go live in my team page when I do my power 30s, because if I don't, I love it because it holds me accountable to actually getting it done. And then it shows my team also like, hey, she's still working her business. And that's how simple it can be. Like they hear my follow-ups, they hear all my random talking to myself stuff, but it's just what's been awesome for me. So usually that power 30 ends up being somewhere between an hour or two by the time I'm done working or whatever, but sometimes I'm not live that whole time. But literally like her nap time is when I'm like doing my income producing activities outside of the leadership stuff. So, I try to keep my mornings mostly for that, like answering my team's questions, connecting with my new distributors, giving them something for the day, or making sure they know the resources on how to find post ideas, things like that, charting and things like that in the morning. And then nap time, middle of the day, or quiet time for kids if they don't take naps. That's when I'm like posting, adding, messaging, following up, host to post, and then whatever personal development that I do through that. Once Teelan wakes up from her nap, that's when we go up and have lunch. So then that's kind of her time again. And then usually, at that point, it's maybe like 3:00. So then from like 3 to 6:00, it's kind of crazy with if we have to run errands before Taylor gets home or whatever. But then I'm still the mom and the wife. So then I got to have dinner ready around 6:30, figure all that out. And then of course, like mixing through that, I'll schedule coaching calls with my team. I usually try to have them sometime in the morning or sometime right before 6:00, and then Zooms that are that night. So, it's just crazy because you'll find these like rhythms and routines and schedules, but like I can never be the mom that's like, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 6:00, and from 6 to 7:00, I'm gonna do personal development, and then from 7 to 8:00, I'm gonna do leadership stuff. Like kids make it impossible because as soon as you decide to do something like that, at least my child, she's like, no, I'm gonna wake up. So having just a routine of knowing like, okay, this is around what time of the day I get stuff done, then that's like how I'm going to get things done. So this has kind of like been the routine that I have found that has worked really well for me. But I'm also at the point too where I know, okay, when this baby comes, like I'm praying that it's a good baby and not bad, because I literally could not handle it. But I think newborns are easy and toddlers are hard. And so I'm hoping, with that, but I'm already planning on like, hey, let me find a college student or a newlywed that wants to make a little extra money, and let me just hire her a couple hours a week just so that I know, just in case, that I can get at least a couple hours of work done a week. So, and you just got to also put it in the perspective too. I'll never forget when Pam kind of said this, like, if you could be making more money doing your business and hiring somebody else to do it for you, then it's worth it. And so cleaning ladies, thank you. Somebody to help watch my kids for a few hours, thank you, etc. So, but that's literally kind of how I do it now, which has been so crazy because like, I don't know, it was so much easier when you don't have kids. So much easier.
I know. I think I would have been a little jaded if I joined the business before kids, because I joined when my daughter was 4 months old, and so I'd never really known life like or business without kids, and so I think I would have been like, well, I don't know, bro. This is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Had it not been.
What I also want to add to this too, because like, I mean, I only have 1.5, and that doesn't even really count as more than one yet. So, but you're going to watch, and sometimes with your lives, they get so crazy and you'll just be like, but I've got like 4 kids. I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm just so stinking busy. Guess what? I promise you there's somebody else that's doing it now. One of my best friends in this business, and I know you know her, Christy Christensen. She's in Vegas. She's 2 hours south of here. She's got 4 kids and she's doing it. She's a top, like, whatever income earner. She doesn't know her number, but it's top 10 for sure. So, but and it's so fun because I'll go stay at their house. Like, anytime I go to Vegas, instead of staying at a hotel, I'm always like, okay, I want some time with her so I can become more like she is. And so I'm like, hey, can I come hang out with you? And she's the same way. She's got a routine. It's not a schedule, it's a routine where, you know, she has her time with her kids, but then she lets them run around, do crazy stuff. And instead of just wasting time or scrolling or whatever, I'll be sitting there on my phone doing nothing when I'm visiting her, and I'll hear her answering messages to her team or sending me messages to people about the business. And then I'm like, holy cow, like, she just fits it into her life and just gets it done. And it's all because of it's a priority. So, and I gave this challenge to one of my girls that I did a coaching call with too. If you find yourself, no matter what your life looks like, if you're like, I really want to do this business, but I just don't have time, like, I've got so much stuff going on, write down the time you wake up and the time you go to bed on a paper. And in between, write down everything you have to do in 15-minute intervals. And I promise you, you're going to have a lot more wasted time than you think. And then all of a sudden, oh, there's 15 minutes to get some host to post. There's 15 minutes to do a TikTok video or whatever you do. And all of a sudden, you're going to find so much time. And it's crazy how much time we actually waste without realizing it.
I know. I always say, like, before I joined, I thought I was like the busiest person in the world. And we all think that we're the busiest person in the world, right? Like, we're all like, how can we do this? How can we do this? But like, you just do it. Like, and I just remember even, you know, during promotion months, it's not like I got less busy, but somehow I did more work, you know? And that's the crazy thing is that I always think to myself, there's going to be somebody that's busier than me that's doing more than me. And it's really about, like, for me, it's about like block scheduling. Like, for me, it's like, okay, during this chunk of time, like, this is what I'm focusing on. Because I think a lot of times we say that we're working, but we pick up our phone and we spend half the time deciding what we're doing. Okay. Especially if you're a blue personality, you spend a lot of time, like, you don't like the structure. Okay. And then you're like, okay, I'm not going to have a structure because, like, I love the freedom that it gives me. But then when you have the freedom, you spend a lot of time deciding what you're going to do, not actually doing it. And so you don't, and you actually are like a prisoner to the freedom, if that makes sense, because you always want that freedom and you always want to have, and I know, cause I'm blue. So like, I'm predominantly red, but my secondary is blue. And so I get into that vibe where I'm like, no, I just don't want to have a schedule. Like, having a schedule sounds horrible. It sounds like I'm just at a 9 to 5 still. And so if you're one of those people, just understand that, like, guess what? You just have to block schedule, like, just say, okay, during these chunks of time, this is what I'm focusing on, and have that focused activity. And that's what's worked really well for me. I don't work well on schedules. Like, if there is I'm the biggest procrastinator by just, I don't know, the way God made me. And so, like, if it's like due at 8:59, I mean, at 9 o'clock, I'm doing it at 8:59. Okay. Like, I'm not rarely like doing things early. And so if I have those time limits, I'm going to wait till the last second, and I'm not going to get it all done. And it's going to be frustrating for myself. And so if I say, I'm going to see how much I can do during this time. Okay. And that is, for me, what's worked. And like she said, it's a Rubik's Cube. What's going to work for you is not going to work for somebody else. I love that analogy. It's so good. So I love that. Okay. What would you say, what you say about mom guilt? How do you help on your team?
I don't necessarily feel like I have mom guilt. And I think it's because I know what's more important. Like, the reason why I'm working this business as much as I do, and that Taylin gets to see me on my phone as much as I am, I don't feel guilty about it because I know what it's going to provide for her in the future, you know? And I think it really is just kind of having that long-term perspective, but then also knowing, okay, I also know that when I'm working my business, I'm working my business, and then I set aside time just for her. So I think if you are feeling that mom guilt, it's because you're mostly just wasting time on your phone, scrolling, and not quite as like doing as much as you need to do. At least that's what it's been for me. Like anytime I have had mom guilt, it's because when I've been on my phone, I haven't been working.
Yeah.
And then when I'm like, well, shoot, I need to stay on my phone because I haven't been working, that's when I start to feel guilty. So if you
I
just,
also have spouse guilt with that too, because there will be
mm-hmm.
times because I'm not actually as efficient as at night. I'm by nature, like I'm a night owl, but I've forced myself to become a morning person because I'm way more effective in the morning. Right. And so like for me, I know that my husband got frustrated with me in the business when he would see me just scrolling. Like he would know when I was working and when I was scrolling. And here's the thing is like if your hand is going like this, you're not working. If your hand is going like this, you're working. Okay? And like you have to know the difference. Like you have to be self-aware enough to say, dang, and I would get defensive with my husband because he would say stuff like, "Are you even working?" And I'm like, "What? Yes, I'm working." But reality was like I wasn't I wasn't being as productive as I should have been. And so I think for all of you guys out there, like that's such a good point of like the mom guilt is coming from you feeling like you're not being intentional enough with that time. Because once you start seeing results and getting results, I think you'll start to understand that like, okay, this is something where I'm really putting the effort in and I'm seeing the results instead of saying, oh, well, I can't do it because I'm not seeing the results. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. So what would you want to go back and tell your former self? Like if you could say one thing to Jocelyn who signed up 7 years ago, what would you say to her? I muted you.
Like, okay, I was like, that's a hard question. I mean, like, I look back and I, especially those first couple months, had no stinking clue what I was doing. I didn't know what a fast start bonus was. I definitely make sure I know what a fast start bonus was. I don't know. I always tell myself, like, man, like, if I just knew what I knew now and I could go back, like, holy cow, like, I'd be like this Instagram famous person or whatever. But that's the thing. And you're always going to have those like, man, like what if I could have changed this? What if I could have changed that? But we can't. So then you just have to decide, what can I do about it now? And that's kind of like what I always love thinking about, because like I can't go back, but what I can do is I can make sure my new distributors don't have to go through what I went through with not knowing these things, not having like a simple system to follow where they know, okay, let's get my first 6 customers. Now let's get my 3 distributors and help them get their 6 customers. And all of a sudden I'm making $500 a month. So like, I wish, if anything, like I wish just would have had that system in place, but now I know, and I can teach that differently. And I think that was honestly the biggest thing was, especially when I was first getting started, trying to build a team and then things crumbling. I just didn't understand, like, I can sign up customers and distributors, but I have to be able to teach my team to do the same thing. And when you do that, that's when that duplication starts happening and that beach money starts to be created. So if anything, I'd go back and make sure that I knew that then.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so good. What is your day like? Like, do you have like goals that you set out for like how many messages you want to get out, or like things that you want to make sure you accomplish before the day? And what are your enrollments like now?
Yeah. So I typically, it's funny because I always kind of go through a funk where I like am really, really, really good at signing up customers for a couple months. And then all of a sudden I'm like, man, like my paycheck's not where it used to be. Like what's going wrong? And then I'll realize like, wait a minute, like I'm focusing on the wrong thing. I need to be focusing on helping a new distributor get started and helping them take off. Mm-hmm. And so I'm started to learn to stop focusing so much on customers. And here's the thing that I've noticed. And if you, like, as an example, you get charted for diamond and all of a sudden you're like, cool, like now all I need is customers. If you just are only focused on customers, one month you might be 2,000 away, but the next month you might be 3,000 away. But if you would have kept focusing a little bit more on distributors, of course, still signing customers, you would have gotten it. You know what I mean? And so the reason why the steps to success have both is because they're both important, but especially like as you want your volume to grow, volume grows quicker with distributors. Like, how long is it going to take you to sign up 40 customers yourself versus helping 10 people get started in the business and helping them each get 4? And so typically though, I average at least 10 customers. Lately it's been like probably closer to 20. And then distributors, it's always like 15 to 20. So,
And are those mostly coming from Instagram?
So it's 50-50 Facebook and Instagram. I signed up one distributor so far from TikTok though. So that's what I'm really excited about. And then I'm so excited about TikTok. It'll be really fun when I can actually figure out how to go viral on that thing. But
I know.
Yeah, no, but it's funny because once I made the shift from only focusing on customers when I needed a promotion to like always making sure to make sure that distributors were equally important, that's when my commission stayed equal and I quit having like big fluctuations in my check, which is crazy. But then it makes you go back and think like, okay, there's a reason why when Joel and Stephanie always tell their story, they say, I needed $1,000 a month. And we knew that the way to get that $1,000 was signing up 10 distributors and helping them get their customers. So I've always just like tried to remember that and keep that as my focus. Okay, that if they make over 100 grand a month, 200 and whatever $1,000 a month, and that's their goal is 10 distributors a month and helping them get their businesses started, then I'm just going to focus on that too.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. I would say it's like, if you can go if you're a pharmaceutical sales rep and you can go visit 4 doctors a day, if you become a territory manager and then you can, help 4 other people do it, then that's super important. Somebody asked, what did you do to keep your momentum with your distributors?
So a really good book for this is called Building an Empire. I can't remember his name, but I think it's Brian, maybe. He, as an example, like in his book, he was like, yep, I'm somebody that I've made over $70,000 a month consistently in my business. And he gives you like exactly what he does. And one of the biggest things, especially with keeping the momentum when it comes to new distributors, old distributors, or whatever, is constantly pouring that vision and helping them remember why they decided to get started. Like, just kind of like, literally, like if you're trying to have a baby, that's the only thing you can think about. Like, I remember when we first made that decision to start training for her, like I could not think of anything else. And I swear my business suffered those, like, it only took like 2 months, but for those months that we were trying to get pregnant, like I could not think of anything else. Like it was just like constant. And just that same example, as soon as you can help a new distributor or somebody that's been in the business have that constant, like, this is what my life could look like, this is what I'm working towards, this is what I want, then the motivation's always going to be there.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so good. Is there anything, the book is called Building an Empire. And I do think that sometimes if you've been in the business for a little bit, you forget how important it is to just like refocus people on the positive stuff, because people do hear negative stuff when they first join, and just refocusing them on why they were excited to join in the first place. Is there anything that you want to add just to close us out? Thank you so much for being on here. This was super insightful. And I know that like so many people, the comments were blowing up, so many people loving it. But is there anything else that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, so I love sharing this. I share this with potentials and also with my team because I think it's an important perspective to have, and it's going to help you have that life for longevity. So no matter what you do in life, you're always going to have to buy groceries. You're always going to have some sort of a car payment, probably. You're always going to have to pay for a house, utilities, your phone, cable, whatever. You're always going to have bills no matter what you do in your life, which means you're always going to have money to pay for those things. So how do you get the money? From an income, from a job, whatever. So when you realize that, you're going to have to work no matter what to pay for those things. So why, I always look at it in the perspective, even if you have to be working full time right now to pay for those things, you could be working this part time and gradually build it up to the point that it completely replaces that. But it's even more than that, because whatever you're doing to pay for those bills doesn't give you the opportunity to make $30,000 a month residually. You know what I mean? You're going to have to work no matter what. So you might as well just take the time to set the priorities and invest, by small and simple things are great things brought to pass. It's literally just doing those small things consistently every single day that make the difference. So I always tell myself, wouldn't it be worth it if I could guarantee you, like, I mean, I can't, but let's just say, if I could guarantee you that if you did the little things that you're taught to do every single day to work your business, and you do them consistently for 5 years, that 5 years from now, guaranteed you'll be making at least $30,000 a month every single month after that. That's so worth it. So worth it. And you've got to have that perspective with this business, that when you do those things, that will happen. Because if it's happened for me, if it's happened for Kelsey, if it's happened for Christy Christensen, for the Duns, for whoever, it will for you too. Heavenly Father does not love us any more than he loves you. And he would not, without a shadow of a doubt, he would bless you with that same success if you're willing to ask, and you shall find, and it's that same perspective, but you have to be willing to put in the work. Just like the scripture, Matthew 7:7 says, knock and it shall be opened. We have to physically do the work of knocking before he can open that up to us.
I love that. It's so good. So good. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, I'm going to close this out in prayer. But I just want to let you know, I appreciate you spending time with us tonight. I know you have a busy life and you could have been doing other things. So I don't take it lightly, and I really appreciate you for doing this.
Thanks
dear
for
Lord,
having us, Kels.
I just really want to say thank you so much for Jocelyn. Thank you so much for the wisdom that you've given her and the experiences that you've given her. Thank you for blessing her family. And we ask that you continue to bless her family in abundance, and you continue to help her have a healthy pregnancy, that you bless the baby that's inside of her, and that she has just the healthiest, happiest little baby when it comes out, and help Taylor with the transition as well. Lord, we just ask that every single person that's on the Zoom tonight got something out of it, even if it's just one thing, Lord, that they implement it into their business, and it proves to be something that's life-changing, and that you open their hearts, you open their minds, and you open just their eyes to see what is possible for them. Because like Jocelyn said, you don't choose favorites, and that there's nothing that you've placed on the inside of any of us that's not on the inside of one of the other of us. So we ask that you just continue to watch over us. You continue to keep us safe. You watch our families, and you bless us. And Lord, as I always ask you, do not bless us further than my character can sustain it, and help us grow our character so that the blessings can get bigger and bigger and bigger. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you. Bye, guys. I hope you have an awesome night.